No, no, no. Do you like me? Like me? Since phase 2 of our plan is complete, it's time for phase 3.
It's fine. It's better for her this way. God has something set for her.
You should try it on. Go ahead. Just testing the waters.
What? Where's this coming from?
Hope saw an old bed and sat down, tears streaming down her face. The room was dark and cold, but her mind was spinning in circles. She looked around, noticing how the basement was almost like its own little apartment, complete with a small bathroom and kitchen. It wasn't a prison. At least, it didn't feel like one, not entirely.
She's bound to let me out eventually, right?
She thought, in the quiet space. She didn't know how long she had been down there, but it was already starting to feel like hours. Her phone, the one thing she could have used to call for help, was left on the kitchen island upstairs.
There's no way stepmother would let me go to it.
She realized, her heart sinking even further. What were the chances Lily would save her? Hope's thoughts raced to her father, the one person who would have made this situation end instantly. The absence of his presence was more apparent than ever, the pain hitting her like a slap to the face. The day dragged on, and Hope began to wonder if Mrs. Clark was worried about her. Would Caleb even notice she was missing from work? A knot twisted in her stomach as the minutes passed slowly, the weight of isolation pressing down on her. She then remembered the stories she'd heard from Mrs. Clark about Jesus and how he always answered prayers. She took a deep breath, her heart pounding.
Okay, here goes nothing. God, if you're out there, I really need help right now. Please send someone to rescue me.
Meanwhile, upstairs, Emily had taken Hope's phone, turned it off, and locked it away somewhere. She was sure no one would be able to reach Hope now. When Lily came home, she immediately noticed Hope wasn't around.
Where's Hope?
She asked, her voice tinged with curiosity.
Oh, she's been taken care of.
Emily replied with a cold smile. Lily's face brightened at that, a sly smile creeping across her face.
Well, if she's taken care of, maybe we should celebrate.
She suggested with a mischievous twinkle in her eye. Emily grinned.
That sounds like a good idea.
She agreed, and they both headed out to enjoy the evening. Meanwhile, at the Clark residence, Mrs. Clark paced restlessly around the living room.
Why hasn't Hope shown up for work today?
She muttered, glancing at the clock. Caleb, trying to calm her down, put a hand on her shoulder.
Then maybe she just got too busy or forgot to let us know. We shouldn't jump to conclusions.
He said, his voice steady and reassuring. Mrs. Clark sighed, but she agreed.
You're probably right, Caleb. I worry about her.
The next day, there was a knock at the gate. The gateman answered and saw Lily standing there, a bright smile on her face. He asked her for identification, and she casually told him.
I'm Lily, Hope's sister.
The gateman told her to wait and locked the gate. After a few moments, he opened the gate, nodded and waved her inside. Once inside, Caleb greeted her warmly.
Hello, Lily. It's nice to meet you.
He said, shaking her hand. Lily lingered a little longer on the handshake than necessary, her smile never fading as they locked eyes. Caleb smiled back, slightly puzzled but polite.
Would you like to sit down? Can I get you anything?
I'm fine, thank you.
Lily replied smoothly, still wearing her bright smile. Caleb nodded, sensing something was off, but decided to get straight to the matter at hand.
So, how can I help you today?
I'm here because Hope was offered a better job opportunity.
She explained, her voice calm and confident.
She's abroad now, doing just fine. But she didn't want her relationship with you to end, so she asked me to take up her job instead.
Caleb's eyes widened in disbelief.
What? She's gone?
He couldn't hide the disappointment in his voice.
She never told us about this new job opportunity. Why wouldn't she let us know? Why didn't she tell us before she left?
His mind raced with questions, each one unanswered. Lily's smile didn't waver.
I don't know, but she asked me to step in and I'm happy to do it. You know, things change. She's got a big future ahead of her.
Her tone was smooth, calculated, like she had rehearsed this moment. Caleb, still shocked, ran a hand over his hair.
I'm disappointed that Hope didn't inform us, but I'll pass this along to my mom. She'll consider it.
Lily nodded, her smile growing wider, as if everything had gone according to plan.
Thank you.
Lily said, her voice sugary sweet as she stood to leave. She gave him one last lingering look before turning toward the door. As she stepped outside, she couldn't help but smirk.
This is just the beginning.
That evening, Caleb shared everything with Mrs. Clark. She stood there, stunned, her mouth opening and closing like she was searching for the right words, but nothing came out.
Why?
She stuttered, her voice shaky. Caleb explained exactly what Lily had said, and Mrs. Clark, still in disbelief, walked out onto the balcony. Caleb followed her, trying to give her some space, but still concerned.
I know Hope's future is bright, and I know God has a plan for her, a better purpose than staying here. But I can't help feeling disappointed. Something just doesn't feel right about all of this.
Caleb nodded, understanding her frustration.
I get it. I never expected Hope to just leave without telling us, not after we'd all become so close.
He said, his voice full of disappointment. Mrs. Clark sniffed and wiped a tear from her eye.
It's fine. It's better for her this way. God has something set for her that's far greater than whatever this economy in Nigeria has to offer.
Caleb chuckled lightly, trying to lighten the mood.
Well, I guess you're right. It's probably time for us to get back inside.
Mrs. Clark gave a small smile, nodding, and they both went inside. The next day, Mrs. Clark called Lily.
You've got the job. You start tomorrow.
Lily, barely containing her excitement, quickly thanked her and hung up the phone. With a high-pitched squeal, she ran to her mother, who was lounging in a chair, reading a book.
Mom, I got it. I got the job. I'm starting tomorrow.
Emily looked up, her eyes lighting up with pride. She pulled her daughter into a hug.
Congratulations, sweetheart.
She said. Then, with a mischievous grin, Emily reached into a bag beside her and handed Lily a small gift.
Here, something for you.
Lily eagerly opened the gift and gasped. Inside was a beautiful dress.
Oh, wow, Mom, this is gorgeous.
She squealed, spinning around in excitement. Emily chuckled.
You should try it on. Go ahead.
Lily dashed upstairs to change, returning a moment later, twirling in the dress. Emily clapped her hands.
You look stunning.
Her voice filled with approval. Lily paused.
Why a dress, though?
Emily's smile turned sly, her eyes glinting with ambition.
Since phase 2 of our plan is complete, it's time for phase 3. You're going to take over Hope's role. Your next task is to get Caleb interested in you.
She leaned in, her voice dropping low as she revealed her research.
Caleb's a Harvard graduate, one of the youngest CEOs around, and get this, he's also a model. Everything you've ever dreamed about. Smart, rich, and handsome.
Lily's face flushed with excitement, her eyes sparkling.
Thank you, Mom. This is such a great opportunity.
Emily smiled proudly, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face.
I love you, sweetie, and you'll have everything you deserve. I told you, I'll make sure of it.
As the days passed, Lily started taking over Hope's job, but things weren't going quite as planned. She couldn't quite bond with Mrs. Clark the way Hope had. Mrs. Clark was always kind, always polite, but there was a distance. They never shared the same moments of closeness that Hope had with her. As for Caleb, Lily tried, and occasionally succeeded, in striking up conversations with him. They'd talk about the weather, the economy, whatever they had in common. They were becoming friends, but it never felt as easy or natural as it had with Hope. 2 months passed, and things began to unravel. Mrs. Clark would ask about Hope almost every day, her concern never wavering. She'd mention how she couldn't reach Hope's phone. Lily, trying her best to cover her tracks, always came up with an excuse.
She's fine, she's just busy.
Lily would say, trying to sound convincing. She'd even start to subtly defame Hope's character, implying that she was too focused on herself to stay in touch. But the more Lily tried, the more she realized that Mrs. Clark's loyalty to Hope was unshakable. No matter what Lily said, Mrs. Clark would always hold on to the belief that Hope was out there, doing well. It gnawed at Lily, her annoyance growing with every passing day. But as more time passed, Lily kept making advances on Caleb, trying to spend more time with him, subtly trying to get him to invite her to dinners and accompanying him on his photo shoots. One day, as Caleb was in his dressing room, changing, Lily saw an opportunity. Without knocking, she pushed the door open, startling Caleb.
Lily, what are you doing?
Caleb exclaimed, his eyes widening in surprise as she slipped inside and locked the door behind her. Lily smiled, a little too sweetly.
I just wanted to talk.
She said, walking closer to him. Caleb froze. He was only putting on his coat, but the situation felt wrong. Caleb looked at Lily, his expression puzzled.
Why didn't you knock?
He asked, raising an eyebrow. Lily shrugged nonchalantly, a mischievous glint in her eyes.
I guess I just forgot.
She said with a playful grin. Caleb frowned, but quickly noticed the container she was holding.
What's that?
Lunch? I made it for you.
Caleb, surprised and a little flattered, thanked her as she placed the food on the table. But instead of stepping back, Lily took a step closer to him. Then another. And another. She was closing the distance between them, and Caleb couldn't help but feel uneasy. Lily finally stopped, standing right in front of him, her eyes fixed on his.
Caleb? Do you like me?
Caleb blinked, caught off guard by the question.
Of course I like you.
He answered, his voice uncertain. But Lily wasn't done. She sighed dramatically, clearly dissatisfied with his answer.
No. Do you like me? Like me?
Caleb's eyes widened. He blinked a few times, trying to process the question.
What? Where's this coming from? What are you doing?
He asked, his voice now laced with tension. Lily smirked, clearly enjoying the effect she was having on him.
Just testing the waters.
She said playfully, inching closer. Then, before Caleb could react, she tried to lean in to kiss him. Caleb's eyes widened in panic, and with lightning speed, he stepped back, his heart racing. In the chaos of the moment, Lily lost her balance, gripping Caleb's coat to steady herself. Caleb's eyes went wide with panic as he slipped out of his coat, leaving it in her grasp. Without wasting a second, he opened the door, darted out of the room and down the hallway. He didn't slow down. He kept running, his heart pounding in his chest, his mind spinning. He wasn't sure what had just happened, but one thing was clear: he needed to get away from that situation, fast.